tariffs on basically the entire world will do what for the economy?
It will send it into reverse. Let there be no doubt about this. The president said today a whole load of economic nonsense, things that we know simply will not happen. He talks about it being great for the economy and it's going to boost growth. It will not. Look, I've studied this a million which ways upside down, and many of the people in that rose garden know it. The president conveniently forgot about the Payne-Aldrich Act of 1910. He ignored the Fort Macomber Act of 1910. He went straight through Smoot-Hawley. And then he gets to this nirvana where billions of dollars are going to come in. Where does he think these billions are coming from? They're coming from importers. Importers will pay because they get something known as a customs schedule when the goods come off the boat. And that is an invoice, and the importer pays. And the importer passes it to the wholesaler. The wholesaler passes it to the distributor. The distributor, get your wallet out, passes it to you.
All right. So very important, okay? Folks at home, classes in session, remember what he just said there, because here is what Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, just told Caitlin Collins in the last hour. Listen.
Everybody sit back, take a deep breath. Don't immediately retaliate. Let's see where this goes, because if you retaliate, that's how we get escalation.
So out of the goodness of their hearts, they are supposed to not retaliate. Calm down. Don't panic. Because maybe this might go away if Trump just wakes up one morning and decides to change it back.
Look, I think the president is right in his critique that free trade has ravaged towns and cities across this country. I even saw you acknowledge earlier,
yes,
Richard, I think with Aaron Burnett, that some countries have indeed taken advantage of the United States. And we can debate the merits of the appropriate approach to address that. I mean, there are towns across this country now that were once thriving. They're now consumed by drugs, crime, the stench of hopelessness, places that were really vibrant. There was once a middle class of a lot of Americans from the Rust Belt to even some communities of color that really saw themselves move up the economic ladder in part because of manufacturing. Now, the question becomes, to the point that you just raised, Richard, what about the consumer? I would personally like to explore perhaps some type of a tax credit or deduction to companies to not pass this on to the consumer, maybe some type of a rebate similar to what we have for electric vehicles, so that car manufacturers have a way not to pass it on to consumers. So I think that there are some comprehensive ways that the administration... Let me finish. There are some comprehensive ways that the administration can do this, I would argue, to some great effect for the American people.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, I remember my college economics class, and my understanding is that conservative economic principles was that you get the government out of redistributing wealth from companies to consumers.
So
hold on. So your idea is basically you slap a tariff, raise prices, and then you give a discount from the government to companies to not raise those taxes, when what you could do is just not raise prices at all?
Here's the thing, Abby, and I think both y'all have a point. For the last 20 years, there's been a major black swan in this situation. That's China. China comes into the global trading system. It's a very different kind of economy. They subsidize everything. The government runs everything. And so you get something called the China shock, where literally a ton of jobs from the Rust Belt, as you're talking about. I grew up in rural Indiana. That was my whole growing up experience. They leave, counties, communities are hollowed out. More importantly, and this is where it gets really interesting, critical goods that we need in this country, you can't produce anymore in the system as it was originally envisioned in the post-war era, because the global economy has changed and you have all these players that are playing by different rules now. And one thing I will say, and this is not to say that Donald Trump is doing this strategy of, kicking the Bretton Woods system, out and changing globalization. I don't think he's doing it right. But he is making an important point, which is that it's outdated and it needs to change. And that is a stepping off point for a conversation I would like to see Democrats actually engaging with more proactively myself.
Let me say a couple of things. First, I don't think it's a coincidence that he scheduled Liberation Day, which I call Hypertension Day, because it's going to give us all a heart attack. But I don't think it's a coincidence that he scheduled it the day after the Wisconsin race, knowing
I
that
thought
he
you were going
could,
to say the
Yeah,
day after
fair enough.
April
Yeah.
Fool's Day.
knowing that he could have, well, we don't have April Fool's Day anymore, honey. The entire year has been nothing but a joke, a bad one. But I don't think it's a coincidence it was scheduled after that election so that this is the thing we're talking about, right? Donald Trump is such an expert at distracting us. Also, as I watched that ceremony today, and then I saw so many Republicans who I know have been free traders and anti-tariff people their entire careers, starting with my former Senator Marco Rubio, who I have known since we were like teenagers. This man has spent his entire life arguing against tariffs, and now he's out there waving the flag. And so it's almost like you're watching, the emperor has no clothes on, play live on your TV, and it's the problem of there being no guardrails.
But could it be possible that some of those Republicans of the past were partially incorrect as it
No,
pertains
it's
to free
possible
trade?
that they've lost their cojones and that they are doing nothing but
Hold on.
kowtowing to
Anna,
Donald Trump.
So Anna, let's leave the president out of it for a minute. Is it not?
How do you
Can
leave
you
the president
let me
out of
make
it?
my point, please?
let's find out where this is going,
Is it not possible to agree that the original argument for free trade is indeed flawed? Is that not possible?
Sir Michael, they had this same position up to 5 minutes ago.
That's
It's not like there was all
Anna,
of a sudden
that's
evolution.
But you're not answering my question.
I will
though.
answer your
the
question.
The idea of free trade has indeed been flawed.
No, I will
There's
tell
a ton
you.
of data on this.
Let me
What do you
answer
mean,
your
no?
question. There are a bunch of coward, pusillanimous people who want to stay in power and be around Donald Trump.
I'm arguing something very different. I'm arguing something very different.
No, I'm arguing that they have no backbone and that they know that in order to
So
stay
you
in a
think
good
free
grace-
trade has been good for the
Guys,
American
let-
people?
I
For
think-
hardworking
I
people?
think Republicans, most Republicans for their entire
Anna and Sir
career
Michael, I
have
want to keep it on the
believed it's been
economy.
good
I
for
think
them.
they were incorrect on that.
Let's let Abby do her
I want to
thing.
let Ashley Allison have a say and also return the conversation to the economy because we have more to discuss later in the show on the
I
politics.
mean, I could watch that all day, so I wasn't going to interrupt. Okay, a couple points. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, blue collar area, manufacturing, steel mills, devastated by plants closing, car manufacturers closing. I just have real sad news for a lot of people living in places like Youngstown, Ohio. Many of those jobs are never coming back because the way we manufacture things have changed, because we have technology. And I think to associate the tariffs to jobs and revitalizing Youngstown, Ohio is being dishonest with voters and with workers in that area. We need to think about new ways to create industries in our country. I think the other thing, though, is to your point of China. We now have China, South Korea, and Taiwan working together to think about how they will retaliate against America. And then I just want to, the words we are using in this conversation, retaliation and escalation, those are words you use in war. And I'm worried that when people in history, when these type of tariffs and attacks have happened, it often comes before we go into war.